What's up, everyone? Happy Monday. It is time for another episode of Coffee with Colin. My name is Colin Egglesfield. I will be your host for the next hour of power. And tonight I have a very special, amazing, awesome guest. This guy is, this guy does it all. So as an actor, acting, I would say, is my second choice in career. My dream was to play wide receiver for the Chicago Bears. So this guy plays football. And he's currently playing for the Atlanta Falcons. He's played for the New York Jets. He's played for the New England Patriots. So to get to the professional level in anything that you do, specifically and especially professional sports, that is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly difficult. But this guy has defied all the odds and is now doing what he loves to do. He is living his dream. And not only that, but as a professional football player, he is doing what he loves to do. Not only that, he's also a college professor. So I am going to be bringing him on here in a little bit to chat about what it was that he did to get to where he's at. So this show is all about how you overcome the odds to accomplish the amazing things that you want to do in your life. And we may sometimes think that the odds are set against us, and you know what? They are. But this show is all about defying the odds and sharing with you success principles that people who are doing amazing and incredible things to share with you, to prove to you that you can do the same thing. So no matter where you're at or what you're doing, there are certain mindset strategies that if we implement, we can slowly start to make incremental advances in our life to get closer to making our dreams happen. So that's what I love doing the show, because it is all about having amazing, inspiring conversations with incredible people and really, truly diving deep and finding out what it was that they had to learn to get to where they are at. So before we do that, I just want to give a special shout out to our sponsor, Picticular. Picticular is the number one movie curating app, and it was created by my best friend, Todd Courtney. And Todd is one of the coolest, most amazing guys you will ever meet. This guy is a movie aficionado, and I've gone to the Cannes Film Festival with him 3 times now. And this guy is just amazing at what he does. He's super successful and one of the coolest, most amazing people that I know on this planet. And he came up with this app called Picticular. You guys are going to want to download it now, because what it does, it allows you to be able to look and find for movies that are find movies that your friends are watching, and you can type in your favorite actors to find out what movies they're in. So if there's someone like an actor like myself, and you're looking for the movies that I have that I've done, you can quickly and easily just type my name in here and find out what movies I've watched. Also, it has the ability for you to be able to swipe left or swipe right for movies that you find interesting. There's the lit list. And then there's also a little swipe down button where you can send stuff into the toilet if they're movies that you don't necessarily care for. So it's a great way for you to connect with your friends on another social platform where you can share with your friends what it is that you're watching to recommend to them what it is that you would suggest. So be sure to download Picticular. Again, it is the easiest and best way for you guys to find out what is current, what is hot, what is cool, and what is not. And we're going to be doing our Picticular Pick 6 with my guest at the end of the show. But for now, let me just give you a little background on who my guest is. So his name is Mr. Brandon Copeland, and he is entering his 9th season in the NFL as a starting linebacker for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, for those of you who don't know football, linebacker is probably one of the most difficult positions in any of sports out there, because the linebacker is the guy that stands behind the line. So when the ball is hiked and it's given to either the quarterback or the running back, these guys are the attackers. These guys just seek out and destroy whoever has the ball. So you've got to be like tough as nails. Not only do you have to be like strong and fast, you've got to just kind of be of that aggressive mentality of you are going to destroy anyone who has the ball and make sure that they don't score. So this is a super intense position that Brandon plays. And he went to University of Pennsylvania, which is an Ivy League school. And for those of you who aren't really necessarily aware of what football is, the Ivy Leagues don't necessarily advance players into the NFL like the other bigger schools. So the fact that Brandon came from a smaller school and made it in the NFL just also goes to show you that he defied an obstacle that a lot of other football players don't necessarily have to face. So that's something that I want to chat with him about as well. Now, not only is he a football player, but he is also a financial education consultant, philanthropist. He's a real estate developer, and he also teaches a course at Penn called Life 101, which I'm excited to chat with him about. And Life 101 is, it sounds like these are the things that we wish we would have learned when we were younger, things that they just don't teach us in high school about how to manage money, how to buy a house, how to balance a checkbook, things like that. And Brandon is also a contributing editor for Kiplinger's Personal Finance. He's received numerous accolades, the Alan Page Community Service Award for extraordinary dedication to service, social justice, and equality. And the end of last year, he was named to 2021 Forbes 30 Under 30 list, highlighting the brightest young innovators across a variety of industries. This guy does it all. And without further ado, please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome the amazing, incredible Brandon Copeland. What's up, Brandon? Thanks for being here.
Oh, I'm super excited to be here, man. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. And a friend of mine, Katie McDonald, who is a financial advisor, she's got her own platform called Financially Fit with Katie. She's the person who connected us together. And you guys have done some stuff as far as financial literacy. And that's why I wanted to have you on here, because obviously as a football fan, I wanted to chat with you about what it's like to run out that tunnel in front of like 80,000 screaming fans, and what it's like to be staring over the line, looking at the quarterback, and then also chat with you about, all about this financial literacy that you're sharing with so many people, which is an amazing thing.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it. One, shout out to Katie McDonald. She's got a heart like you, right? Just trying to share the journey as she goes, right? And I think that's what drove me here. But I wanted to also highlight something that you mentioned in your intro, and just really want to highlight that for everybody watching. The fact that you said, hey, it's about the mindset, and it's about daily steps, incremental steps towards your goal. And I think that's something that, some people talk about it, but I think it glances over a lot of people's heads, right? Like whether it's football, whether it's acting, whether it's education, ultimately, right, it's more of the mindset that people like us have. Some of the people in the audience, I'm sure, have as well, that is going to drive you to be different in your field of choice. And so I think that for me personally, I've always attributed my, the accolades, they sound good and that's great, but it's really about the mindset of like, okay, well, I'm not where I want to be yet. And so how do I go ahead and start attacking that today, So
how did you set that high bar for yourself? Because obviously, like you were saying, for us to be able to accomplish things in our lives, I like what you said. It's not necessarily about looking around and seeing what other people are doing. Mm-hmm. The only way we're going to be successful in life is if we set those goals for ourselves, and we can either have the mindset of it's not possible, or we can have the mindset of this is my goal and I'm going to find out how to make it happen, even if I don't know how to make it happen right now. So what was it for you that made you set those high standards for yourself?
Yeah, I think first, like the simplest thing was like, I don't want to be anybody else, right? I don't want to have anybody else's life. I want to literally create my own. So I think for me, that's an empowering thought and feeling when, because we all start as kids and we have those, I always put the Disney-like imagination, right? Like as a kid, you go ask my son right now what he wants to be. He can't really talk yet, but astronaut, I want to fly. I want to do this. And as you get older, life just kind of pecks away at our optimism and we just become more and more realistic. And I think that the first thing that I've always tried to do since literally being in middle school was like just keep that Disney-like imagination for myself, right? Some people will come up to you, oh, you can't do that. You're not going to do that. You can't make it in the league. What do you know? And okay, that's your goals and your dreams. For me, this is not the life that I want. So I think first and foremost is keeping that Disney-like, childlike imagination for yourself, because you can create it. It's just about you believing in yourself long enough and then putting the work behind that belief to then go and realize those dreams. And then I think after that, for me personally, again, it's just the work. It's also just rolling up the sleeves and getting it done, and that's where I think a lot of people, you start off strong, and I'll use myself as an example. Diets, right? Start off strong on the diet. It's really easy week one. You might be going a little bit withdrawal from the dessert and all that stuff, but it's week one. I'm locking in. I'm going to feel the gains. Week 3, week 4, that's when man, I don't know if I really want it that bad, right? But that's when you got to kind of really hone in on that. For me personally, I just kind of hone in on my why and my North Star, and I always try to make it bigger than just myself. The final piece of that is it's easy to give up on yourself to a certain extent, right? It's easy for you to let me not do these sprints today. I kind of did a little bit yesterday, but when it's the kids at my football camp are counting on me, or my wife and my son are counting on me, right? Even if they're not counting on me, they might be all good, right? But ultimately trying to use different tools as motivation to just give you that little extra edge that day or that game or in that training session is what has kept me that as a hamster on the hustle hamster wheel, so to speak. But then you just take that hustle and you apply it to whatever it is you're trying to attack today, whether it's real estate, whether it's being an educator, whether it's producing, whatever it may be. So,
yeah. And did you always have aspirations of playing in the NFL?
Yeah, I did. I think I really wanted to be a basketball player, to be quite honest with you. You see those contracts that look good. You see, basketball guys, they super cool. You get your face out and all that stuff. But I think for me, God had different plans for me when I, I'm just a husky build. I'm just, I was big bone growing up, and football just always came natural to me, So I think around high school, my grandfather also played in the NFL for 11 years. So, at a certain point, basketball was I have to really, really try. And football now in the NFL, you got to really, really try all the time. But some of the things, it's hard to explain it, but some of the things are just instincts, right? Where it's just you naturally just, I feel like the ball is going that way because I feel the way this lineman is pushing on me. I saw him look that way. He's trying to look me away. But basketball, I didn't get any of those instincts at all. It was a struggle on a daily basis. So football was just kind of not the easy route, but it was the pathway, so to speak, the chosen pathway.
Yeah, I could barely even dribble, and my jump shot was just non-existent. So, but it was one of those things where with football, I just had naturally good hands. I was skinny, I was fast, so I was just just throw me the ball and let me run. Yeah. So that's why I gravitated towards football, and football is great because I loved it to be able to just get out there on the field and get my aggressions out. And the thing growing up, because I was so skinny and so small, my mom, God bless her, she was always protective, and she was like, "You're not playing football. You're going to get hurt." And I was like, "No, Mom, I want to play. So I was always playing soccer and that kind of thing. But when I got into high school, my freshman year, I played college or high school soccer, but then just going to the football games on Friday nights and just seeing everyone out on the field, just to me, it was that's where it was at. And, to have the crowd watching and everyone cheering, I just knew right then and there that I didn't want to be a spectator. I wanted to be out there on the playing field in life. And you know what? That's where you score touchdowns, but that's also where you can get hurt. But I was like, I don't care. I just want to try it. And so I went out my sophomore year. for football. I remember I convinced my mom. I was like, Mom, you're not going to stop me. I'm going to do this. And it's one of these things where you've got to convince people sometimes of your passion. And once people see your passion and how committed you are, my mom was like, okay, all right, I see how committed you are to this. So she and my dad bought me this Arnold Schwarzenegger workout book. So for Christmas, leading into my sophomore year, I was like going to the weight room, eating protein milkshake, protein shakes and all that. And so my sophomore year, I went out, and I just remember my first football practice, I got my bell rung and I got my ass kicked. But as I got back up and I'm like seeing stars, and I'm like, all right, I'm still here. I'm still alive. Let's do it again. And it was just one of those things where I just felt like as kind of scary and as the possibility of us sometimes getting knocked down is, I just felt like this was where I wanted to be able to just, I guess, learn what it meant to just play full out and not be a spectator in life. But I didn't have aspirations I knew like my limitations from at that point in my life. I didn't think that, professional sports are really going to be something that I could possibly do, mainly because I didn't really know any professional athletes in my life. So would you say that having your grandfather playing professional sports, did that set the bar for you to be like, you know what, well, grandfather did it, I could probably do that too?
Yeah, I think, exposure is everything, right? And like even this talk, right? Like sometimes people are being exposed to things for the first time in their lives. And so you're like, oh, I can do that, right? So I think clearly, obviously, you grow up and your granddad, especially being my grandfather, unfortunately, passed away in 2019, but he was 76 with a six pack. Like he just always worked out and all this stuff. So some people you kind of like, you're a little different, right? but ultimately, he always, one of the things he used to always say is, I would never lie to you, Cope. And he was like, lying to you would be like lying to myself. And so when he would tell me, hey, like, I think you can play at the next level. In high school, it was college, and in college, it was the pros, right? I really believed him. And I think that, me wanting to not only make him proud, make my family proud and stuff like that, and also, start my life on a different foot. I think that definitely led into my mindset of like, okay, I can do this. Now, one of the things I will say, however, is like you talked about other people kind of like deterring from that dream. And so I remember one of my favorite rappers is J. Cole. And he talks about in this song that I always listen to, Too Deep for the Intro. The first song I ever heard of his, at the end of it, it says, if they don't know your dreams, then they can't shoot them down. And I always thought that line was just like super powerful. So I remember being in college, I heard this my sophomore year of college, and I was just like, I'm not going to tell people that I'm trying to go to the NFL. I'm just going to hide it. I'm just going to secretly work for it. Because I don't want people at Penn thinking like, oh, this dude's crazy. What is he talking about? Nobody goes to the league out of here. And I just want to just work. And then probably about my senior year, at the end of my junior year, going into my senior year, it was like, hey, like, I'm comfortable now telling people this is my dream, so to speak. Go ahead and try to tear it down if you want to, but I've already built the mindset that like, I don't really care what you're saying. So I think that's also a tool for those out there who are just like, sometimes you feel like, sometimes we may not want to admit it, but we do listen to outside noise. I still listen to outside noise. I see when I sign with the Falcons, I see every comment on there that says, who the hell is this guy? Right? Like, why do we do this? Right? Like I see the positive, I see the negative. But for me, again, I've been able to train my mind to use the negative to boost the positive output on my end. And I think we just have to be smart at protecting our minds so that we can get the outcome that we want.
Yeah. So, because some people would say, you know what, I don't even look at social media. I don't want to pay attention to it because it doesn't matter. I do what I want to do, and that's all that matters. So for you, it sounds like you use that, those comments as your fuel to just prove people wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, so this is my football camp. This is my wife and I. My wife's name is Taylor. Our foundation, Beyond the Basics, and we have a football camp every year. Clearly, had to do virtual stuff this past year, but the last year we were able to do it in person. I literally had around the camp banners of positive quotes that I love that have helped me, and negative comments that people have said. So either random folks on Instagram,
Mhm.
head coaches in the NFL, scouts, like all of those things, but no one knew that they were about me. Like removed that from it. But I really wanted the student athletes at our camp, 400 young people. I'm like, don't think that because we're up here now, or it looks like we've made it, that we haven't dealt with all of that negativity to get here. That same feeling that you feel right now of like, oh, everybody's on me, or I'm not this, or I'm not that, right? Like we've got it too. The difference is we just didn't listen. We just were crazy enough to just ignore them and keep going. And so I think that I feed into some of that stuff, because I think it's good for other people to see that, hey, it wasn't just a smooth red carpet laid out for us to get here.
Yep. And you talked about your why. What would you say your why is for playing football and doing what you do?
Yeah. So for me, it's always been about financial freedom. And the reason I want financial freedom was, one, to be able to live life on my own terms, first and foremost, right? Like be able to create the things that I want to create, but then also to help people, help other people, help young people, help educate people as well, right? For me, I'd rather my funeral be packed with people talking about how I've positively impacted their life that is now been able to help them impact somebody else's, rather than, a sack against Tom Brady this year or something like that. I went in and shouted that out. It's going to happen this year. I got to sack Tom Brady a couple times, but ultimately, you get my point, right? Like for me, it's about leaving this place better, not in a cliche way. Like it doesn't have to be the whole world. It just has to be it just has to be some people who can then change their own families' lives as well.
Well, it sounds like you're doing just that. And, I do some real estate investing myself. And in one of my courses that I took, my real estate investor had us, write down, the goals that you normally hear, like what is your 6-month goal? What's your year goal, 5-year goal? He said, I want you to go home tonight and I want you to write out what your 100-year legacy would be. So when you are long gone off this planet, how do you want the world to have been like improved or impacted by you having been here? And it was such an amazing exercise, because that I think that was one of the things that really helped me start to think about bigger, grander, more of a all-encompassing goal than not just rehabbing houses to make some money, but also like how could we possibly make a difference in these communities and provide employment opportunities to local people. I invest in the south side of Chicago, so there's a lot of opportunity down there, and a lot of needed. There's just lack of resources down there. So the fact that me and a few of the people that I'm working with down there are making that positive impact, that is a direct result of that question. What is my 100-year legacy in terms of what kind of impact would you have wanted to have left the world? And seems like that's exactly what you're doing right now with your Life 101 course that you're teaching at. Is it affiliated with Penn or is that outside of it?
Yeah, no, it's there. So we teach it. I literally had class earlier today at Penn, virtual and all that stuff, and then tomorrow we do Life 101 online. Anybody can take that, and you can come to life101.io and register for class. There's some free resources there and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd say that's an awesome exercise, and And I think that one of the things that I've benefited from, and we incorporated into the class for the first time this year, actually, was making all of our students write their epitaphs, and which is similar to a 100-year legacy, right? It's what you want read about you at your funeral. And so, like you said, when you do that, I had to do it in high school as a senior. And you see, we literally had to read them in front of the team every, the day of our rival game, our last game of the season. And when you see, not going to tell anybody who's going to go home and try to do it, not going to tell you what to write or anything like that. Do whatever you want. However, there's not too many people talking about what car they drove on the day that they died or what jewelry they were wearing or anything like that. It's more about like what you did for your children, how they think of you, all of those types of things. So I think that that's an awesome exercise and would encourage anybody to do it, man. Yeah.
So with Life 101, when people go to that website, what can they expect to see when they get there?
Yeah. So first and foremost, you'll see a big smiling picture of myself. So, I mean, I think that's what you got to, no, I'm joking.
You got a great smile, Brandon. So very welcoming.
But no, so when you come to that website, again, you'll see some free resources. If you go to the resource page, you'll find out like, hey, we have a budgeting tool for you. We have an income tax calculator. We have a group Telegram messenger where anybody can join, where we're just talking about tips and financial details. And then you'll also have the e-course access. It's $12 a month, charged annually. So literally less than, no offense to any of your music providers or anything like that. But this thing, you're going to make that money back and then some by taking this class. But what we are trying to do is literally everything you deal with in life, we should be talking about it before we're dealing with that decision, right? So today in my class, for example, Colin, you're a real estate guy, right? I showed my students, I just refinanced an investment property I have in Maryland. I showed my students the amortization schedule of this thing, right? And I'm like, look, the first month I'm paying $937 in interest and $500 towards the principal. So let's talk about extra mortgage payment math. Let's really understand these things, right? Look at this closing package. It's 153 pages long. Let's not just get to the first one and think, oh, like, let me just browse through this. Like there's thousands of dollars in here that you need to be checking and understand. So we talk about budgeting, investing, accounting, wills and estates, like literally everything. We bring subject matter experts so that people can get their questions answered. And I think the emphasis of the class is I came into the NFL and a lot of people brought some great ideas to me, right? I'm sure, once you got your first acting gig and stuff, you tapped into a new network, right? But I always thought that it was weird and odd that like nobody wanted to give that information to my brother or my wife or anybody else unless they were tied to the NFL or some high potential earner, right? And so I'm like, it shouldn't be like that. We all can learn from this stuff and we all can benefit from this stuff. So let's just share it as we learn it and as we go. So, yeah.
So I'm sure you've heard of this where there's been plenty of athletes who have made millions of dollars and then are broke, 5-10 years out of the league, and stories of like Mike Tyson making over hundreds of millions of dollars and then declaring bankruptcy. So when we talk about mindsets, a lot of what we attract into our life has to do with, it's essentially, I like to say it is your financial thermostat. So if you feel like you are worth a certain amount of money or a value where you feel like you belong, if you win the lottery, if you don't feel comfortable with that type of money, you're going to spend it. You're going to push it away because subconsciously we have a financial thermostat where we are set at. And so do you talk about the mindset principles with regards to, it's not just about the numbers. It's about, okay, when you earn this amount of money, what are your financial goals? Do you talk to that and speak to that type of education?
Yeah. So first and foremost, what I try to make sure everyone understands is like, you have to start preparing for your breakthrough. And I think a lot of people are like, well, none of this stuff applies to me, right? Like he's in the NFL, Colin's an actor, all this stuff, right? Like this doesn't apply to me. Well, most of us. So this is what happens with NFL guys or pro athletes. Imagine, the legal driving age in Maryland is 16. Imagine never seeing a road, never seeing a stop sign, a red light, green light, etc. And somebody coming to you at 16 and saying, hey, Colin, here's some car keys. Let's go ahead and drive for your first time by yourself. Yeah. Go ahead, get on the highway or the beltway, whatever you guys call it, wherever you're from, right? Good luck. That's literally what we do with money, right? Like we literally get no training on this for elementary, middle, high school, college. And then it's like, hey man, you're going to the NFL. Here's millions of dollars. Good luck.
Yeah.
Whoa. Right. So I think that one system has kind of set us up a little bit unprepared, not a little bit, like extremely unprepared, which is why we're trying to do what we're doing with Life 101. But then two, beyond that. So first, it's like take off the pressure of like, oh, this is my fault. Well, like no one ever gave you this information. So you're here now. Let's talk about it. Then it's about understanding, again, as we talked about your why, but also like your value, what you value, right? So like I'm in a locker room. There are a lot of nice cars. There's a lot of nice jewelry, right? I have on this Amazon chain for $10, $12, because this is what I don't really value it that much. I want something I can work out in, I can get in the sun in, I can shower in. I don't value it. I got on this Timex watch, right? I would have put on a nice Apple Watch for you, but I forgot in between class. I apologize, but I've had this watch for 4 years. I saw Calvin Johnson Megatron rocking this watch my first year in Detroit, right? Like it works for me, right? And so I understand my own values, and like you said, Colin, like some of us have that financial thermostat that just wants to put it back out, and I think that it's about your spending habits, right? And it's about understanding, reverse engineering your why with how you're actually living, right? Like you can't. I tell high school kids this, and I'm sorry, so sorry for those who don't care about football. I apologize for the analogies, right? But I tell high school kids this every time. How do I make it to the NFL? How do I make it to the NFL, right? A lot of people look at athletes as going broke because our money is in the public eye, so to speak, right? If you look at a lot of people in society, they are really going broke, but it's just not publicized, right? They're not living confidently with their money, so to speak. And so it's not publicized. So if we think about it like that, I tell high school kids, right? Don't tell me you want to go to the NFL, yet you're doing the exact same thing as everyone else on the team. You're doing the same amount of work as everyone else on the team. When at the end of practice, if everybody runs 500-yard sprints, you run 5 and you walk off the field. We know for a fact everyone isn't going to the NFL. So right there alone tells you got to do something more, right? Like you got to live a little bit different. And so I think that a lot of times I look at stuff and I say, okay, a lot of people are doing that. It's probably just not for me right now, right? That's kind of how I check myself in my own expenditure. So hopefully that answers your question. I kind of went on a little tangent, but hopefully that answers your question. Yeah,
but it sounds like you take responsibility for where you are putting your money, where I think a lot of people, I mean, this is, I think, just the culture that we grow up in, where you go to school, you go to work, you start making money. And then at our job, we've got the IRA or the 401k that's set up. And we just kind of think, okay, well, yeah, money's going in there. But I think we spend more time planning our vacations than we do planning on what kind of return are we getting on that investment. And so for you, it sounds like, you're diversified, you're doing real estate. I would imagine you've got some stocks. And actually one of my questions here from Shannon Murray here, who's also a real estate agent. She's a real estate agent in Toronto, and she's asking if you're first starting out as an investor, would you recommend investing in real estate or stocks, or what would you recommend to someone who's just starting to get into investing?
Yeah, so for me personally, I would recommend stocks just because I think you have easier access to learning and understanding the information and what you're actually investing in, right? When you're investing in real estate, there's a lot that goes on that it's going to be tough for you, especially just starting out, to really understand and really dive into those conversations with. But the stock market, Google University, YouTube University, right? Like you can find the barriers to information now are literally non-existent. With that being said, I will also caution everybody, be careful who you listen to, though. Don't just hear something in Clubhouse. Don't just hear something that somebody on Instagram posts and not do your own due diligence. That's what I'll say. There's a lot of people doing good stuff, but there's also a lot of people who are setting some people up for failure. So again, I would say start with the stock investing.
And maybe reach out to someone like a Katie McDonald who can start educating you on what your financial goals are. And then from there, like you were saying, work backwards, reverse engineer what your goals are. And then someone like Katie can help you achieve those goals. And I think some of the questions just, basically like how much, like what are your expenses each month, and what kind of lifestyle do you want to be living? And just those kinds of questions. It's crazy because politics and religion and money are the three things that we're like, you don't talk about that stuff. Yeah. And it's like, that's the stuff we need to be talking about, and it can cause a lot of anxiety talking about money. And it's, the thing is though, you can't just sweep it under the rug. Eventually it will catch up to you. And just having those tough conversations with someone like a Katie, who is very supportive, and just someone who can hold your hand through that process and educate you through this is highly beneficial.
Yeah, I think, what we saw this year, now I think for the first time ever, politics is like a comfortable conversation, or it might be an uncomfortable conversation. It might become a heated debate really quickly, but like people are talking about politics, not necessarily religion, but people are also, now it's more acceptable to be talking about money. And this is in the last year, maybe, right? And I think that what I've found is like the reason why these things were taboo before is because they are linked to power and influence, right? So those are things that we want to dive into, right? Or we should want to individually dive into and understand a bit more. And I think the other thing, just kind of coming back to your point earlier about the IRA and the investing, we have to figure out what works for us mentally. And what works for me mentally is understanding that, like, I'm not, a lot of people are like, oh, you're living different, you're living frugal, you're living cheap. It's like, by me not spending a certain amount today, I'm really investing in an older version of myself, right? Like, it's the best investment in the world, right? Like, if I'm putting money into my IRA, I'm putting money into an old, gray-haired, washed-up version of Colin, right? Like, somebody's got to pay for this old man's bills, and I'm going to do it myself, right? And I'm making sure I don't have to depend on anybody else to do it. So I think us having a shift in mindset as well is just huge, because a lot of people are like, man, don't you want to go out? Don't you want to party? Don't you want to do it? Like, yeah, I can do that, but ultimately, like, I'd rather pay for the gray-haired man that I know the best in the world, right? Like, I know the lifestyle he wants to live when he's 50, right? So, so I think, again, that perspective change is huge too. It's like, it should be the coolest thing in the world to come and start talking about, your real estate developments, right? Like, it should be the coolest thing in the world to start talking about our IRAs and stuff like that, because that's where we help each other make better, stronger decisions.
And I mean, it's tough nowadays though, too, because everything is so in your face. So we see, no offense, but we see professional athletes driving amazing cars and with a lot of like amazing jewelry, and actors and musicians, and it's all like kind of in your face. And so I have a question here from Sharon Coleman. She's asking, what advice would you give young people if they want to look cool, such as buy the car, the clothes, or save for a home to get a return on their investment? So I think the question is, what advice would you give to people who are, they want to look cool. They want to, like, obviously it's like the name brand clothes and that sort of thing. Obviously that's like the short-term benefit of just looking cool, compared to where you were, like you were saying, you're investing in your future self. What advice would you give, or do you give, to the people that you come into contact with, kids and people who are in your Life 101 class?
Yeah, I think so. One, everything in life there's moderation to be had, right? Like I would be miserable playing in the NFL if I did not splurge every once in a while. I personally just try to make my splurges like something really, really cheap and just a lot of, right? Like a few years ago, my splurge was dad hats. I went through a dad cap phase. So I bought like $400 in dad caps, right? Like it was weird. I don't know where half of them are, but it's like, that was my splurge. And that's what made me feel good, right? Like for me, I'd splurge on memories. But again, to answer the question, what I try to get people to understand is, it's going back to what we talked about earlier. My mindset doesn't necessarily need to be your mindset or somebody else's mindset. We all have to be very, very comfortable with how we leave this earth. What I encourage people to think about, though, however, is when you do leave this earth, if they do that 100-year legacy piece, or they do leave that epitaph, is the type of car you wrote in there, right? There's this video of Grant Cardone talking to Rich Kid, this rapper, I guess, talking about, I'm sorry, I never heard his music myself, but I sound like an old dude now, but talking, and Rich Kid's talking about, man, I want to buy this Corvette. And Grant Cardone's like, what are you doing, dude? Like, no, like, don't buy that. Take that 70,000 and put it in the stocks, put it into some assets, right? Like, for me, I'm playing Monopoly, and everything that I'm trying to do is like a bit of ownership. And the final thing I'll say, if you don't think it's cool, listen to some of the leaders of the culture in music, right? When you hear Beyonce, I don't know, everybody loves Beyonce, right? She's talking about in a song, she says, pay me in equity, right? Like, and what does she mean? She went to Uber and they were giving her $6 million to perform. And she said, no, pay me in stock. This was way before Uber ever went public. And then the Uber goes public and it's worth 240 million, right? Like some of your favorite culture leaders are telling you, like, Jay-Z
like 50 Cent did that with vitamin water.
Exactly. Right. Like, so the coolest people in the world are telling you, like, yeah, like it's a little bigger than just the chains and the flash today, although they are also, marketing from time to time. And, sometimes that's what you got to do.
What would you say is the biggest, or a couple of the biggest challenges you've ever faced in your life to get to where you're at?
Yeah. True. Great challenges. A great question. Excuse me. So I think injuries have been, one thing I'd say. I've gone through knee surgery, 2 pec surgeries, a wrist surgery at this point. And I think every single time you do something like that, it's kind of like every time you go under the knife, literally, you just kind of like, man, is this what I what I signed up for? I signed up to walk out of the tunnel with the 80,000, not necessarily to like be out the whole season, right? Those are always difficult, but I think, again, I look at the positive side of, like, I spend time with the family and stuff like that. I think in life, though, one of the biggest things that I've dealt with was my grandmother's passing. And, my grandmother in 8th grade passed. And, it's kind of has literally shaped the rest of my life, as crazy as it sounds. Everything happens for a reason. I'm a strong believer in that. But literally, she was in the hospital for a few days prior to, and she had diabetes. She always kind of go in and out of the hospital. So, I remember my mom just picked me up from school. Hey, you want to go? Nah, I'll go tomorrow, Mom. Hey, next day, hey, you want to go? Just being a young, dumb kid. Nah, no worry. I'll go tomorrow. And finally, the day she passed, I just get into the car after school and everybody's quiet. I'm like, what's going on? And long story short, she ended up being on life support and all that stuff, and then passing that evening. And I just realized, like, you know, how short-sighted I was in those moments as a little kid of like, oh, she'll be here tomorrow. Oh, I'll just go tomorrow. As opposed to like, no, go make time, see her now, make the time if it's important, right? And that was the only regret I've ever had in my life since then. And since then it's been, you know, go make the time. That's why my plate is always full, you know, sometimes incredibly, but ultimately it's go handle business and do the things that you want to do in this life, because tomorrow literally isn't promised. And that's not a cliche. That's literally real.
Yeah. And I read that you played for the Lions, the Jets, the Patriots, and now the Falcons, right? And I read that when you signed with the Patriots, you played, so an NFL season is 16 games. You played 7 games, and then you tore your pectoral again, right? Yeah. So here's the thing. When it comes to, you know, having your dream of being able to play, and then you go out there and you're doing what you love to do, to get injured and then to be on the sideline, and those thoughts of like, am I going to play again? Am I going to be able to get back out there again? Like, how do you deal with the setback and the negative thoughts that come into your head? And how do you keep going? What motivates you to just keep striving to get back on the field?
Yeah, so that is, as sadly as it sounds, I think I've developed a little art at that at this point. As sadly as that sounds, right? It's been through it so many times. But so first, I always give myself a few days to like, woe is me.
Yep.
Why? You know, like, you know, bad food, and just, you got to give yourself that time to just brain dump, right? Your season's over. You've been training for your whole life, yada, 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 right? Not oddly enough, it's funny. The first time I ever had surgery, I watched this documentary, Kobe Bryant's Muse. And it's a documentary about him, the season after he tore his Achilles, and what he went through mentally and how he got himself back and stuff. And so literally this is my routine. Give me my few days of what was me. I watch Muse, the documentary, and then I go through surgery, come out, and as soon as I can start doing stuff again, it's all about pushing myself to get back to my version of normal, so to speak. So again, even with those things, I think it's like you said, it's the biggest. This pec was definitely one of the bigger mental challenges in my life, because again, it's the second time on a different side. A pec tear is a 6-month injury and rehab process, and literally it's one of the most boring. The first couple months is like, you know, can you let your arm hang without it hurting, and, you know, little stuff, right? Like, it's like snail's pace. So knowing what it was like the first time, and then thinking about, damn, I got to go through all of that again. Like, day 2, day 3, day 4. It's just, but once you get through it, again, I choose to focus on like, well, you know, I'm home. I'm fortunate. I have a awesome family, an awesome wife, awesome son, in-laws, and parents that are with me as well, that I can like, I choose to focus on what I can control. And so I remember the first time I tore my pec, and I was like, it was I remember I tore it in August, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch every single game, and I'm gonna just become a student of the game this year and XYZ. And I thought about it. I was like, this is the first time I haven't played football in the fall since I was in 4th grade.
Wow.
Get this iPad out of here. What? Like, let me just ask my mom, ask my wife, how are y'all doing today? Like, you know, like, let me just enjoy the process. And so I think that's what I try to do, is like find the joy in the details. And you'll understand that, like, I understand that having those moments where the game has been ripped away from me will allow me to come back in year 9 and be strong enough to beat anybody, because now mentally I'm a little different. I'm a little scarred. I don't want to go back to not having it again. So again, everything just makes you for me, it makes me a little hungrier. Right? And so that's trouble for somebody else.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. Tom Brady. So, so you've, been playing in the NFL for 9 years, been playing football your whole life. I think when we watch football on Sunday or the Super Bowl, we're sitting in our living rooms, we're having a great time, we're drinking beers, and we're seeing you guys just run around the field, just throwing your bodies at each other. I think we take for granted what that really is like. So could you just kind of try to explain to us, like, what goes through your head when you are staring down like a 350-pound linebacker or lineman, and he's like coming at you, and you're getting out, moving him out of the way to then tackle the running back? Or, what is it like to be on the field with, these are the highest performing, like, top athletes in the world, slamming at each other at 20 miles an hour. This, like, I'm just like, how the hell do you guys like survive this stuff?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Nah, the reason I started laughing is because I'm thinking, it's like everything else. Like, you think from the outside in that it's like, oh, like these guys love this. They're doing their dream.
Oh, yeah.
Most of us do, right? Like I do. I don't have to be playing football, right? Like I'm doing it because I love it. And I know that's a weird thing to say on here, but like I'm doing it because I love it, right? And there's some days, just like when you go to work and other people out here going to work, right? Like there's some days where you wake up and it's just not your day, right? Like you're just like, I want to just kind of hit the snooze button, keep the curtain closed, and just go to sleep, and let's try it again tomorrow. And some days, those days are Sundays, and you're just like, man, I'm still sore from last week. Oh man, I gotta do this again, right? And but the guys who stick around are the guys who can still be the player that they're supposed to be on those types of days, and the days that they wake up out of bed like, who wants me, right? So I think for me, we're going to keep coming back to mindset. For me, I've found little tricks to just keep me involved in the game, right? So some Sundays it's not really feeling it today. Let me talk some trash. I'm not a big trash talker at all. But as soon as I talk trash and I get you to say something back, now it's a competition. Let's go, right? Yeah. Some days I'm feeling great and there's nothing. I'm just having fun playing football. I think what I always fall back on, for me, football is such a simple game. And I know that sounds really weird. It's a very complicated game. A lot of people think athletes are dumb jocks. Dumb jocks. Like we literally learn a playbook.
Your playbooks are like so thick, man.
Right. And that's for 1 week. And then guess what? Next week, completely dump that. And now we got to face a different team, the Saints, whatever it may be. And it's a totally different scheme. Right. Yeah. So what I'd say is my grandfather, again, he taught me this lesson when I was younger. He always ripped up paper and cardboard boxes before putting it in the trash to get more space in the trash. One day, I'm like 12 years old. One day I'm watching TV and he's ripping up cereal boxes and stuff, putting it in the trash. Hey, Cope, you know why I was good at football? I was like, why, Granddad? He's like, I always looked at it like this. And he pointed at the trash can. You take me and one other person and you put us in this trash can and you say, only one of you can come out. Best believe I'm coming out of the trash can. And he was like, I don't care if they all world. I don't care if they 350 pounds. I don't care if they all American, all whatever. Like, it's literally just me and them. Yeah. I have to come out the trash can, right? And I think that I've literally, since being a little kid, I'm just like, well, it's me and you. And I literally think of football as simple. Like, my mom is watching, my wife is watching, now my son is watching. Like, if we weren't in pads and we were just on the street and we walk past each other, I wouldn't let you just hit me and walk away in front of them, right? Like, it's the same thing now. So now I have to win every single battle, one play at a time. So that's just what's kept me around. Yep.
And I would say, a lot of the successful people that I've met in my career as an actor, and myself included, I just love the process of acting. Even if I'm not on a professional stage, just going to acting class on a random Tuesday morning, just that to me, that's what I love. And I think it takes that love for what you do to be able to do the things when nobody's watching, to be able to be as successful as you are. So obviously, as a professional athlete, you're doing things a lot of the times nobody's watching. So it's like nobody's watching what you're eating and what you're, putting into your body, and the extra sprints that you're doing and the extra reps that you're doing in the gym. What is it about football that you love that just makes you do those things when nobody's watching?
Yeah, I love the camaraderie. I know that sounds weird, but like the locker room, right? Like being able, I get paid to still be a big kid. I can wear sweats whenever I want, right? Like, and it's cool, right? Like I can walk into a Wall Street firm, and if I'm wearing sweats, it's like, oh, he's a football player. Like I used to always say that at Penn, like, as soon as I got into the NFL, I was like, I can literally wear whatever I want now, and people are gonna be like, he's football. It's cool. It's fashion. Yeah. It's really not. It's just, it's really not at all. So I think that I enjoy the locker room. I enjoy like the process, but not to steal your word, but like the journey with a group of individuals, right? Like pushing each other. Like the great thing about football is like, no matter what your race is, where you come from, right? Like you become a family for a year and then life, right? And so no matter what you think about the person next to you, whether you like them or not, as soon as we walk into another stadium with another team, hey, whoa, don't touch him. That's my friend. I don't care. If he's a bad person, that's my bad person, right? Like, I'm bleeping it out, right? But that's my, you don't touch him. I'm the only one that can touch him, right? Like, so I think that's the cool thing about it is like it really brings a lot of people together, makes people families. And again, I'm like you. I love the process. I'm in Florida training right now, doing 3 workouts a day and stuff like that. I love it. And there's certain days I look miserable. If you ask me, I'm going,
yeah.
But like for me, those are the things I'm going to look back on. Like, I know I gave it my all, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think, I feel like it's an honor to get the opportunity to do that, because a lot of us, unfortunately, we don't have anything that really, really pushes us to get all of our potential, like wring all of our potential out of the towel. So I look at it as an opportunity.
And I'd just like to briefly talk about success principles, because you've had so many different coaches in your life. And specifically, I want to touch on Bill Belichick, because he's one of the most successful coaches in the NFL, having won so many Super Bowls. So having played under so many different coaches, what would you say defines how a coach like a Bill Belichick is so successful compared to the other coaches that you've played for? And I guess in short, what would you say is the definition of success?
Yeah. So the great coaches are super, super detail oriented, and Bill Belichick is just like, he takes it to another level of detail. I learned so much this year, and I've been around some pretty good coaches and people, right? Yeah. And I've learned so much this year in a short amount of time than I've probably learned in my entire career, in terms of how to look at football. He is literally a historian. So every week when we go and we talk about a team, we are literally talking about like how that team was founded, where, I never knew the San Francisco 49ers, right? Like 1949 was the California Gold Rush. So that's why they were called the 49ers and XYZ. Yeah. And guess what? This is what the owner thinks. So who's making the decisions in this building? All like, it's literally like, whoa, like you walk onto the field and you're like, wow, I know a little too much about you, right? Like, I don't know this much about my opponent, right? But I think for Coach, what I really admired this year was how, and I think we can all take the money things that we were talking about earlier, like the habit former. You prepare for the worst possible situation, right? Like we prepare and practice for the last play of the game in the worst possible conditions, in the worst situation, right? I've been on teams where it was like, oh, it's raining, let's all go inside and practice inside, right? Coach is like, I want it to be raining, I hope it's snowing. If it's not raining, I'm going to grab a bunch of waters and I'm going to throw it all over the wide receiver's hands, the snapper's hands, and the quarterback's hands. And let's see if you guys can catch it in the worst possible conditions. So that when we're actually in the game, when we actually make it to the NFL and get our first check, when we get that promotion that we're looking for, we've already prepared for the big moment. And I think that that's what has separated not only coach, but then clearly the New England Patriot franchise for 20 years, 20 plus years.
Yeah. Would you say he's a really good communicator as well?
Yeah.
He doesn't give you much.
I mean, he communicates. You might not like the way he's communicating at you in the moment, but that's enough. I think that coach, the other amazing thing about him is like, you can tell he loves the process as well because he coaches everyone the same, right? Like I've been around coaches who only want to coach the top guy on the roster or the quarterback or the guys that they think are going to make the team. He really loves football and he wants to coach everybody. It's just for him. You can tell for him, this is just a practice rep on how to coach this technique, even if this guy may not be here next week, literally, and it's an example and an opportunity to coach the entire team, right? I've been in organizations where it's like, I'll skip past this guy's film. It's not really, he's not going to be here. Coach wants everybody to see it because he wants, if there's a mistake made, well, let's learn from this mistake. If there was something really good done as well, let's learn from it because we all can learn. A good idea has no rank. So I think that is also pretty different and unique in terms of his approach as towards others.
Yeah, because I'm always interested in what makes a great leader, because I've worked with really good directors and really crappy directors where you walk on set and we're like, how the hell are we going to get through this? Because I don't and it's scary. And so when we talk about certain teams and or different companies that have different cultures, you look at like a team like the Detroit Lions, and I'm from Michigan. I love the Detroit Lions. I mean, I'm a Chicago Bears fan, but like it's hard to watch the Detroit Lions because they have great talent. And so my question to you is, even if there's great talent on your team, if the culture of success is not there, and if it maybe is not, if it's just foreign to, certain, it seems like winning just is foreign to certain teams. And having been on teams like the Detroit Lions and then a team like the New England Patriots, where it's the Patriot way and that's the successful way, what would you say to that regarding success culture and a culture that is just can't seem to figure it out?
Yeah. So I think first, like the standard, when you talk about success culture, right, you first need to talk about the work culture, like the standard of hard work. And I think that a lot of, not even just football organizations, a lot of organizations have it backwards, right? Like when I was with I'm known as a hard worker, right? That overworker, all of that type of stuff. I'm the guy you got to tell, like, hey, let's skip this here so that you can, we need to be fresh the whole year. I'm just average worker. I'm just an average worker when we walk into the New England Patriot locker room, right? There are things when I would do extra work with other organizations, other teams, it was like, wow, this dude. When you're doing it with the Patriots, it's like, oh yeah, man, yeah, we're doing this together. Or oh, you're quitting already? Like whoa, So again, this is that first and foremost, when you talk about success culture, you talk about what's the standard of sacrifice and work ethic you're willing to have to actually reach success. And that they set the standard there. I was with the Baltimore Ravens as well. They are a standard setter as well in terms of like, we're going to work our way for success. Beyond that, I think, like you said, it is also, it's an expectation of having not just winning, but also having like a good performance, right? Like, there's not too many things that I walk into, knock on wood. Sorry, I'm gonna have to do that, but knock on wood, right? There's not too many things that I walk into feeling unconfident about when I've prepared my tail off.
Yep.
And I think that is what that standard of hard work breeds when you walk on the field in that success culture, right? People look at it as success culture, but it's really like, well, no, I've already worked in this entire week. I've invested this entire week so that now Sunday is fun. And I think that's literally in New England. Like, they literally, prime example, there's this thing called a Whoop bracelet where it tracks your heart rate and output and all that type of stuff all day long. It tracks your sleep, everything. So a lot of players will wear it. Last year was my first year. I'm like, let me wear this in practice in games. I used to never do that. And so the first week of the season, we played the Miami Dolphins. That week, I am leaving practices just drained. And I'm like, whoa, it can't be like this every week. And I remember looking at my output, and then Sunday we get to the game, and literally by the third quarter, I'm sitting on the sideline like, I feel like we haven't even, like, we've warmed up. Like, I feel like I haven't played. And I look at the output at the end of the game versus practice, and it's out of 21. My Thursday practice was like a 17-7. My Wednesday practice was like 16. The game was like 9.3. And it's like, when you think about that, it's hard to not walk on the field feeling like a beast when you've already put the work in, and the games are literally,
It's called a Whoop bracelet.
Whoop. Yep. WHOOP. Like, whoop. There it is. Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. So we're approaching the end of the show here, and I just wanted to touch on the entertainment part of what we do here. And we've got a couple of questions here. One from Marisa Costa, another from Paula Williams. They want to know if there's any acting roles in your future, Mr. Brandon Copeland. Do you see yourself as a movie star, TV show? Do you want to produce anything? I would love to produce.
Okay. I think I would love to actually direct, I guess is more the role, like be on set, making things like go and stuff like that. But I'm not really a good actor. I'm terrible with scripts. I'm realizing that as I'm trying to shoot more stuff on social media. Is like, I'll have a script and I'll get it, and then we're gonna have to do it.
We got to work, man. I'll help you with that. I'll get you right as great as you are at tackling running backs and quarterbacks. That's what I do best. So I will get you ready for all of your videos and your shoots and all that good stuff. So We'll talk. And as we wrap up here, the last part of our show is our Picticular Pick Six, brought to you by Picticular. And Brandon, my first question for you tonight with the Pick Six is, what is your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? I have to go with, it's got to be a football movie. Any Given Sunday, man.
Oh, yeah. Al Pacino.
Yep.
Yeah.
Al Pacino, LL Cool J. I mean, it was a classic.
James Woods. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. What'd you like about the movie?
I loved how, I thought that Jamie Foxx, to make the star of the movie, end up being like an underdog character and like working his way up. I thought that was similar to my life at the time, and still, not just like handed the spot, like working, still people doubting, and then working. So I always love those types of underdog stories, so to speak.
Awesome. Yeah. And what was your favorite movie growing up?
Oh man, I would say, if we're talking growing up, you got to go with a Disney movie, right? I'd say obviously Lion King or Aladdin, man. I think that those were the classics in my household, man. Those are legit.
Good choices. What's your favorite comedy?
Man, comedy. So many good ones out there. I'm gonna go with Rush Hours. The whole Rush Hour series, man. Those things, they come on now on TV, and I can literally just get lost watching Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan go back and forth. The Rush Hour series, classic.
Yeah, awesome. What is the movie that you're embarrassed to say that you love?
Oh, man, I almost leaned
My
in.
best friend's wedding.
What's you know what? It was a really good movie, though. I think people like Friends with Benefits. There's that the one with Justin Timberlake and Mila Kunis. I thought that was done really well, and that was. Awesome. I wouldn't be bragging about it, but it's a good movie right there.
Yeah. What would you say your favorite actor is? Who would you say your favorite actor is?
Jamie Foxx. Well, I mean, besides Colin, of course, right? Like,
of course.
Do that one. But no, Jamie Foxx, and the reason is, I'm trying to be really short with it. Jamie Foxx's real name is Eric Bishop. I saw this E! True Hollywood story one time. His real name is Eric Bishop. He grew up in Texas. Changed his name to Jamie Foxx. Well, first and foremost, his real dream was music. He wanted, not music, I don't know why I put it in quotes, but he wanted to be a musician.
Yeah.
But he was really good at acting and comedy. So he changed his name to Jamie because he saw that more women were getting stand-up comedy roles at that time at bars or whatever in Texas. So he changed his name to a gender-neutral name. And so went there, obviously did a bunch of great work with In Living Color, movies, acting, etc. And then if you see in his TV show, the Jamie Foxx show, he slowly incorporates music into it to get his shot. And I've always really admired that. I saw that when I was in like middle school. I always really admired the fact that like you had something that you really wanted, yet good at something else. So you just used it to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought that was like really admirable,
Yep. Awesome. Yeah. So as Tony Robbins likes to say, he says, we may not always have the resources, but as long as you're resourceful, then you'll be able to find a way to make it happen. That's always stood up in my head to me. And my last question to you is, who's your favorite actress?
Oh, I'm going to go with Viola Davis.
Great choice.
I've been watching, from TV shows to movies, etc. Like she really has like a crazy range right now. And I think that it's been great to see her success as well. So what about you? Who's your favorite actor? You would know better.
I have to say, I love pretty much anything Tom Hanks does.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
I just, it doesn't matter, just I'll tune on, turn on TV. If anything Tom Hanks is in, it's always good.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I'd say he's my favorite. And then actresses, I would have to say Cate Blanchett, Meryl Streep. Yeah, definitely. My favorite movie of all time, I would have to say it's a toss-up between Dead Poet Society. Did you ever see that one with Robin Williams?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
Got to check that one out. Field of Dreams, Kevin Costner, and Gladiator.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yep. Yep.
Gladiator. Exactly. They always make us watch those on the football road trips and stuff like that. They did that in college. We'd have to watch Gladiator before we go to the game, get your mind right, all that stuff.
Yep.
So, I love Gladiator.
Awesome. Well, Brandon, I appreciate your time. Thanks for being here. And just before we go, I want to ask you one last question. What inspires you?
This is going to sound really corny. I was about to say the pursuit of happiness. But no, I really I'm inspired by my wife, Taylor, and my son. My family, the life we're trying to provide, or not just provide, the life that we're trying to build and grow together. I think that's what keeps me going on a daily basis, whether they know it or not. That's what keeps me pushing through the workouts. Literally at the end of every workout, I'm like, I should have played baseball. I should have done right?
I know, right?
It's like, I know that for me, football is my the same way Jamie Foxx had his comedy and acting to unlock his other dreams. Football is my key, so to speak. So I'm doing it for us.
Awesome. Well, Brandon, you're doing a lot of great things. And for those of you out there who want to check out what he's doing, how can they get in touch with you? How can they find you?
Yeah, so at bcope51, BCOPE51 on all social media. And then life101.io. Literally, we have live classes every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to come as early tomorrow, we'll be chatting, and we'll keep doing this throughout the year. So awesome. All right, man. Well, the season is the draft is coming up next week, right? Or this week? Next month, literally a month from next today. Month. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, congratulations on your new team with the Falcons. I'll definitely be rooting for you, and good luck with everything, including all the great stuff you're doing. 100%. Thank you so much. You stay blessed, stay safe, and I appreciate you having me, Colin. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for being here. Take care. All right, everyone. Thanks for being here. I know we ran a little late tonight, but it was definitely worth it. As you could tell, I'm definitely a football fan and wanted to just get a better understanding of what it's like to be coached by some of the greats out there. And just, again, some great insight, great knowledge tonight. He touched on it's all about attention to details and just putting in the work. And it's so important that you love what you do, because if you don't love what you do, you're not going to be as motivated to put in that extra work when nobody is watching. And I really liked what he said about preparing for the worst case scenario, because I think a lot of the times in life we get anxious and afraid when we don't know what the outcome is going to be. And as long as we make sure that we are educating ourselves and putting in the work and going into life with an open mindset to be able to just keep learning and constantly improving our lives and evolving, I think that is one of the best ways we can prepare ourselves for not only just more fulfillment in life, but also obviously financial freedom and, just making sure that we are doing the things necessary to be able to make sure we've got solid footing so that we feel that we are walking into life as confidently as we possibly can. Be sure to check out the Whoop bracelet. That sounds like something super interesting. And I also liked what he talked about with regards to paying attention to everyone. And it sounds like Bill Belichick, who is one of the most successful coaches of all time, it sounds like he really pays attention, not just to the star athletes, but like Brandon was saying, he pays attention to even the athletes who may not even be there the next week. And I would just say, try to embrace all of that into your daily life and whatever it is that you do. I love to learn from people like Brandon. And, I think that's one of the best things that we can do for ourselves is just continuously learn from people like Brandon. So thanks for showing up. And next week, we are going to continue on with our amazing season 3. And thanks again to Particular and Todd for supporting us here. If you haven't downloaded Particular yet, by all means, go to the App Store or the Google Play Store, download it. And we've got our Inspire Summit coming up on May 23rd. We're going to be launching our website for that this upcoming week. It's going to be an amazing Sunday of motivational speakers, inspiration, music, some food, some yoga, some meditation. So that is going to be an amazing day. And again, I've got my Inspire course I'm going to be launching again in a couple of weeks. So look out for that. And thanks again for being here tonight. Thanks for your continued support. And I will see you guys all next week. Have an amazing rest of your week and rest of your night. I'll see you soon.